Hello, my name is Noheul Lee from Areon Type. I would like to greet with you the typefaces I have worked on. Since this is our first meeting, let me introduce about myself. After graduating from university, I worked as a graphic designer at an art museum, a publishing house, and a magazine company. I've worked on projects involving both Hangul and Latin scripts. While working, I felt the lack of Hangul typefaces matching the variety of Latin ones, which fueled my interest in type design. From that on, I had a strong thirst for Latin and Hangul type design. After self-studying and being captivated by a professor's work in The Hague, I have decided to switch my career. After receiving an acceptance letter from the Royal Academy of Art in The Hague, I coincidentally came across the news that the 6th Hangeul TypeDesign Competition chose me as this year's winner. From that moment, I embarked on an irreversible type design journey. The first typeface that emerged from my type design journey is Areon. It is the outcome of an experiment driven by an interest in multi-script typography, combining Hangul and Latin scripts, and the principle of stroke parallel movement. At that time, I was intrigued by the form where the contrast in thickness between horizontal and vertical stroke was minimal due to stroke parallel movement. Interestingly, the result in horizontal stroke appearing thicker compared to the typical characters. This type of letter form is referred to as reversed contrast. In exploring similar examples, I found inspiration from various typefaces that shared a similar interest. For example, I was greatly impressed by typefaces like Hojo X Copon's Antique Olive and David Jonathan Ross's Trilby, which originated from a similar concept. However, the difference between them is that I wanted to find the more humanistic and legible shapes, so I put more of a brush calligraphy feel into the letter form. I wanted to make a variety of weights, from thin to black, to provide versatility in use. The process began with simultaneously working on both the Latin and Hangul. Starting from the very rough sketches, I iteratively refined the forms by scanning and outputting them in small size. Then I corrected them with the pen. Through these iterative steps, I digitized the shapes that seemed most promising. Through the digitization process and multiple rounds of refinement, the complete Areon embodies a robust yet lively impression, capturing the flavor of calligraphy. Areon consists of 3 sets: Roman, Italic, and Hangul. I created 6 weights from light to black. Areon featured a well-balanced blend of serif and sans-serif styles with distinct details in the stroke that highlight the handwriting feel. It is designed to be versatile, suitable for various purposes, including body text and headings. I feel lucky that Areon received the Gold Award in the Latin category at the 2019 Morisawa Type Competition and had a commemorative exhibition at the Ginza Tsutaya bookstore. After 2.5 years, Areon Pro was released through Morisawa platform. Working on Areon was especially delightful as it was my first venture into type design. After returning to Korea, I worked as a senior researcher at the AG Typography Institute, where I was responsible for conducting research needed for the Neighbor Mariburi project. By the way, the Neighbor is the IT company in Korea, like Google. Arvana is my first Hangul typeface that was practically released after being selected in the 6th Hangul Type Design Competition. The inspiration for this typeface originated from a question that arose during my time working as a graphic designer. With the increasing publication featuring both Hangul and Latin script at the time, designers began to develop various techniques for seamlessly combining the two scripts. However, I noticed that while there was a variety of text typeface in Latin, Hangul typefaces mainly consist of variation of the basic Myeongjo style with slight modifications. Arvana began with two main perspectives. I aimed to create its structure based on Myeongjo, suitable for a general body text. In addition to this, I wanted to create a new feeling for a self-typeface using a framework based on tools other than the traditional brush. While researching, I became intrigued by the formal characteristic of one of the Western calligraphy tools, the broad nib pen. I was captivated by the unique aesthetic of it, where straight lines and curves coexist in its visual expression. I believed that if I could successfully apply this unique aesthetic to the structure of Myeongjo, based on traditional brush calligraphy, it would potentially result in a modern-looking typeface. In the initial planning stage, the Latin typeface that influenced the design were Burgundica by the renowned Dutch designer Gerrit Noortje, and the Sectra from the Grilli Type Foundry. GT Sectra, a self-typeface, combined the feel of calligraphy with the broad nib pen and scalpel knife. It intrigued me because it didn't just replicate the traditional forms, but merged the two different tools to create a new typeface. I aimed to apply this approach to the Hangeul type design process, highlighting the contrast between the straight and curved line of a nib pen and the sharpness of a scalpel knife. In other words, Arvana originated from envisioning a self-typeface for Hangul using Western writing tools instead of a traditional pointed brush. The aim was to delicately maintain the stroke fineness while smoothly expression sharp form. I have been experimenting for quite some time, starting from early sketches to digitization. Depending on the combination method, I varied the width and tried to apply the characteristic of broad nib as much as possible in the parts where serif appears and the stroke bends. The final consonants such as neon, digit, leer, tiut feature slight curves aiming to showcase dynamism by drawing inspiration from the flowing forms of both Eastern and Western calligraphy. This aspect can be considered one of the prominent features of Arvana. Moreover, it reflects the desire to write quickly with the tool, manifesting directly in the form of the characters. The flexible flow of lines at the bottom of the final consonants influence both the overall structure and details of characters, giving a distinct impression reminiscent of cursive style. In addition to the default curved final consonants, I also wanted to add the straight line version. For this, to enhance user convenience, I use an OpenType feature called Parallel Line Style option. When user selects this option in the program like Adobe InDesign, the curved final consonants transform into straight line. This is what it looks like when Arvana is used in sentences and paragraphs. I also paid close attention to the Latin version to match it with Hangul, considering aspects like weights and size. Arvana is currently available in total of 7 weights. The initial version was released through the feature font platform, and the project was completed and moved to our platform Areon type. These photos are the exhibition of finalization, the 6th Hangeul TypeDesign Competition. Starting from Arvana, my partner and I officially launched Areon Type Studio. Commuting between Korea and Switzerland with Geneva as a starting point to reach wider audience. We also made our typeface available on AG Font Shop and the Sandor Cloud platform. The most exciting moment is when graphic designers interpreted and applied the intention of type designers in their work. For example, here is Arvana in use. For example, such as a default version in cursive style, final consonants in the book title. The straightened consonants version with open type applied into the body text. Here are the other examples in comic book speech bubbles, on posters, and in website body text. This is the exhibition catalog for Johan Miro, designed by design studio Good Question. They used one of our Latin typefaces, Ortank text and display for the catalog. And the performance poster series for LG Art Center, designed by design studio and graphics, used Ortank display for the poster series title. This is an example that used for a website that creates images by cartoonizing the traditional Korean painting genre by Stuki Studio. Used Giparang, one of our Hangeul typeface. This one is an example used for a book utilizing the Lumanic typeface. I was thrilled by the sense of connection that emerged between a graphic designer and type designer through the use of the typeface. Ortank Hangeul text and display is the Hangeul version of previous published Ortank text and display. It explored the use of geometric shapes in both Latin and Hangeul script. The goal is to combine simple shapes with classic influence inspired by the linear grotesque style. For the text version, to emphasize the digital feel of Ortank Latin, I completely eliminated curves in some characters. On the contrary, for the display version, I added more diverse details. For example, in the case of Q, the end of the slanting needle is sharply curved in the horizontal combination. The connecting stems of neon digit also rise sharply and are connected to the bowl stem. Another unique feature is the bending shape seen in Ing, which directly reflects the aesthetics of the Ortank display's alphabet O shape. Since it is based on a geometric structure, I aimed to achieve a stronger visual similarity. The Ortank Hangeul text and display family consists of a total of 9 weights, from thin to black. Like other typefaces, I'm also most pleased when I see examples of Ortank Hangeul in use. Examples from the feminist publishing company Bomalam bring me a great joy. I'm also glad to have learned a lot, not only from retail typefaces, but also from creating custom typefaces. The one example is the neighbor Maruburi project, where I collaborated with some Korean designer Noheul Lee, Gumoa, and AG Typography Institute. I took charge of the Latin part. The process of finding a Latin style for Hangeul was quite enjoyable. This project started with the question of what appears most serif-like on digital screen. For Latin, it was designed with the concept of modern old style typeface based on Venetian and Garrard style. This is how it looks when used on a mobile. The Latin part of the Hyundai Happiness Sans project was also fascinating. This project, conducted in collaboration with the Hyundai department store design team and AG Typography Institute, provide me with the new insights into what designer working in a department store needed from a typeface. For example, they use tabular figures a lot for price tag for their product. So they asked me to put a tabular figure as a default set. To To be honest, the custom type projects are quite challenging, but there is a lot to learn within those challenges. While running a type foundry, I also occasionally conduct workshop or lectures. Last year, in commemoration of the sixth anniversary of diplomatic relations between Korea and Switzerland, I conducted the Hangeul type class at the Type Design Department of Lausanne University of Art and Design. It was such a fun because I could see how students explore Hangeul with their personality. In Korea, I have mostly conducted a workshop related to Latin typefaces. In 2022, my partner and I held a short-term workshop at the AG Typography Institute. And this year, I'm conducting a Latin typeface workshop through the online class platform Notefolio. I still vividly remember the time when I first embarked on the journey of type design. On one hand, it was daunting and challenging. But when I started down this path, participation in Morisawa type competition gave me the courage to continue. I find myself somewhere in the middle of this journey. I believe there is such much to be done, and many things I want to accomplish. Although it will take a lot of time, I want to steadily create and showcase more Hangul and Latin typeface to the world. Thank you very much.